Time to get back in the game.
Well, we've got a whole bunch of movies to talk about today, so let's dig right in, going in order of release with... Oh, right. Hi, guys. I know it's been a long time. We are, in this video, after that dramatic intro, going to talk about all of the releases I've missed from Vinegar Syndrome, with some minor exceptions, since January, because I have not done a single stack about Vinegar Syndrome's new releases this entire year, and for that I apologize. So we're not going to be talking about the VSAs today, so sorry, but as far as the standard releases they've put out, let's dig in. Oh, and I'll rank them at the end too, I guess. Sure, why not? People like rankings, right? Let's do that. Good. Let's go! Roll the trailers!
I know it sounds impossible, but it was as if there was someone out there throwing him.
Wanted him to have a decent Christian burial, you know, final eternal rest and all that bullshit.
The window washer's 1, the security guard is 2, and this is 3!
In Dark Tower, Michael Moriarty stars as, Michael Moriarty in the stuff, I guess. Except this time, instead of New York, he is, somewhat inexplicably, in Barcelona. The far-off wonders of Barcelona. He's investigating the mysterious death of a part-time window washer at an office building. He'd probably be full-time, but he's too busy with his other job, peeping.
It's like peeping.
The lady getting peeped on is Ginny Agater's, Carolyn Page. I had to remember her name there for a second. Who works for the spooky high-rise of the damned, or whatever. Together, they'll have to figure out what's going on in what some have presumably called super tedious and basically just a filler title. Moriarty is working with this Tucker Carlson-looking dude. Seriously, this dude, give him a bow tie and some shitty opinions, and he could be murdered on national TV by Jon Stewart. That's how much he looks like Tucker Carlson. Anyway. Ooh, spoke too soon. Building beat Johnny Boy to it. A big problem with Dark Tower is that its scenes of terror tend to rely on pretty low-key frights that are pretty low in the gore department. Some of these work really well, like early on when Carolyn touches the window and blood appears, or when Detective Tucker Carlson is possessed by an unseen force. The issue with this is that the characterization is, well, it's kind of meh. And meh characterization in a low-budget horror movie needs something to tip the scales. Sure, we have Michael Moriarty doing his usual Michael Moriarty thing.
They figure it's our responsibility at Sentry to watch out for those things. Will you cut it out?
For falling window washers?
Yeah, well, they figure it's a pretty strange kind of accident.
Why? I'm surprised it doesn't have more often.
Yeah.
But that shtick by itself can't make up for everyone else being a bit of a snooze. It comes close, don't get me wrong, dude's a national treasure, but man, this thing is just kinda there. It's like a beige couch in an art gallery. Sure, it's useful to sit on or catch a snooze, but there's so much more interesting stuff around it. Taking that analogy one step further, it is one of those pieces where I can certainly see some people gravitating toward it. Me? I just want to see that sick-ass tomato soup painting. Now, once Detective Michael Moriarty gets deeper into his investigation and the body count slows down, so too does the movie. The first half hour is actually pretty solid stuff, while the second act deals more with interviewing various people related to the case, Carolyn freaking out, clairvoyant phenomena, and...
This movie's fucking boring.
The final half hour features a typically scenery-hungry Kevin McCarthy and some haunting shenanigans that help elevate the thrill factor, but it's not quite enough to revive Dark Tower from its second act coma. It's kind of boring, y'all.
I know these phenomena.
I bet you're right, it wakes.
Overall, a decent first act and some pretty decent shots of 80s Barcelona did not a great film make. There's enough elevator-related shenanigans for Dick Moss to get all hot and bothered. Too bad that maestro style couldn't be a part of this production, despite plenty of talent behind the scenes. This was longtime cinematographer Freddie Francis's last film as director after replacing original director Ken Wiederhorn. Wiederhorn? I'm gonna say Wiederhorn. Yeah. Who is most famous for Shockwaves, Return of the Living Dead Part 2, and Eyes of a Stranger. Neither seems to have done much with the material, and Freddie, who most notably shot The Elephant Man, Cape Fear, and The Straight Story, thought it was such a piece of shit that he used a pseudonym on the final product. Big yikes.
That's a hard thing to deal with for someone like you.
Extras-wise, we only get an 11-minute interview with special effects artist Steve Neal. Interesting get, considering there's not a ton of effects in this one, although what we get is honestly not bad, at least not as much as Francis seemed to think. This is what I would call a bit of a filler release from Vinegar Syndrome, by no means awful or worthless, but unlikely to get much replay value, and in many cases, probably even straight to the sell pile. Now obviously we all love slipcovers. This is what this one looks like. And honestly, it's pretty dope. Look at that thing. Let me put it in front of my face so the camera will focus. There we go. Look at that. Oh. Very nice stuff. Oh, look at that picture of your dead hubby. Oh, hello. You know, it's fine. The original poster artwork is also included, and of course that is much more notable. I think a lot of people have seen this cover somewhere. The cover is way more fun than the movie itself. And of course inside you get a disc and nothing else. So there you go. That's Dark Tower. Whee!
We are now on a long journey. A journey of no return. A journey into the shadows of the unknown. A dark side of life. Into unknown dimensions.
When the cat's away, the mice can play.
You little kokor.
Boy. Cthulhu Mansion. One of those little cult curiosities that I've wanted to watch since I was probably a freshman in high school, but just never got around to because the available copies were, dog shit. They were dog shit. Like many of its ilk, a brand new sexy restoration by Vinegar Syndrome has placed it in my lap. Does it hold up to its bizarro title and status as a long-neglected cult curiosity? Well, kinda.
What the hell?
What's this? Your old man's porno collection?
Cthulhu Mansion is definitely a movie that I would put as 100% organic, my jam. It's got a messy narrative, ridiculous and mostly unlikable characters, some solid cheesy effects work, and it's directed by the one and only Juan Piquer Simon, director of Slugs, Pieces, and several movies that will hopefully get the Blu-ray treatment they deserve sooner rather than later. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, gimme them movies. The plot is a little all over the place. It starts off with a wild prologue introducing the tragic backstory of this strange magician who stumbled across the Book of Cthulhu here. You can tell it's the Book of Cthulhu because, well, look at the damn thing. It's about as subtle as a gunshot to the knee. Anyway, the plot shifts pretty much immediately to this group of drug-dealing thugs who quickly make their likability known by just committing murder and being dicks to the one dude with the potential to be an okay dude.
It's true, I swear. It's my old man's.
But don't get too caught up with him, because, yeah, he's not the well-developed hero you'd expect him to be. Anyway, they wind up carjacking the magician, as well as his daughter and assistant, who's this cool dude here, and taking refuge in the magician's house. From there, well, things basically go as you'd expect. Essentially, it's the opening of Beyond Terror, a film Simone helped write and produce, with a more conventional demonic house hijinks plot. Cthulhu Mansion is very much a hodgepodge of ideas. There are some connections to Lovecraft, but nothing quite as overt as a title like Cthulhu Mansion would have you believe. Beyond those, there's quite a few bits of interesting imagery, both of the haunting and comical varieties, and plenty of enjoyable, albeit thoroughly shitty characters. Again, a lot like Beyond Terror. So yeah, this is not top tier Juan Piquer Simón, but it is a worthwhile addition to anyone's collection, especially thanks to the extras. So we get a feature-length, 1 hour, 41-minute documentary on Juan Piquer Simón. It's a mixed bag, not unlike the movie. At one point, Eli Roth shows up in a clip speaking French, and the subs just say French language, which... not helpful, guys. Other little production blemishes slip through, marking a fairly amateur effort all around, but it's enjoyable. A bit confusing, but obviously integral for anyone who can't get enough of Juan Piquer. There's also an interview with the special effects artist to sort of round things out. It's a solid release. Obviously, could have used a commentary, but I guess Kat Ellinger is too busy with the 500 other releases she's been contracted for, so I'm sure she's enjoying her time in the sub-basement.
What the hell do you guys keep down there? No!
As far as the slipcover, as you can see right here, ooh, spooky dookie, oh, spooky dookie dookie. It's a nice slip. It's in line with a lot of the other Spanish releases from Vinegar Syndrome recently. Of course, you have that iconic artwork. Look at that. Oh, iconic. Look at that beautiful piece of stuff. And of course, inside you got the disc. Yeah, I really enjoy. I look forward to revisiting this one. Unlike Dark Tower, which will remain on a shelf for the foreseeable future, Cthulhu Mansion will actually get some play for me. So good stuff. Satan's blood. Oh, that dog gonna die.
Hot dogs are at their best. We start with the choicest franks. Cook them until they're just right.
Juan Piquer Simón strikes once more, baby! 1978's Satan's Blood is another one of those productions, like Beyond Terror, shepherded by Simón, who produced this film and directed some additional elements to spice up the production, which was an early adopter of the new S certificate rating in post-Franco Spain. Basically, it was a Spanish NC-17 with more commercial marketability, which meant tits, baby! The story is pretty simple. This young couple living in Madrid and expecting their first child are stopped in traffic by another couple who claim to have a connection to our protagonists, who can't place the strangers, but choose to trust them anyway because in those days catfishing was just a really wild southern sex act. Anyway, they head out to these supposed friends' country house with their very much doomed dog, sorry Poochie, and we the audience are welcomed into a menagerie of, well, creepy Satan shit and fucking. Honestly, the softcore satanic orgy is pretty hot. Really makes me miss pre-pandemic activities, if you know what I mean, and I think you do. With this sucker, we've got Spanish Gothic atmosphere for days, lots of fantastical imagery, questionable character choices, and plenty of sweet, sexy, satanic shenanigans with zero interest in mystery or subtlety, all told in a captivatingly serious way, never showing any self-awareness, and just telling a straightforward couple thrust the wrong people, Jesus Christ. Never showing any self-awareness and just telling a straightforward couple trusts the wrong people and bad shit happens story. It's a delight, and a very good-looking delight at that. Cinematography is just, sexy, give it to me, it's so good. It's so good. It just looks so great. Atmosphere for days. For extras, we get some pretty solid stuff, albeit a short list of it. First up, there's a Spanish documentary from Cheap Films about the making of Satan's Blood. It's 46 minutes long, and while Cheap Films are not exactly the best doc makers out there, this sucker contains plenty of information about the production and how the film came to be. What's most interesting is how many involved seem to have some strong distaste toward the final product, despite it being really fucking good. I don't know. Either way, it's nice to have a doc included that features criticism from the cast and crew alongside all the behind-the-scenes information. Then there's a stills gallery. Ooh. Ah. And my favorite, an audio commentary, of course, with Kat Ellinger and Sam Deegan. Live from their imprisonment in the commentary sub-basement. They give a lot of historical context. In fact, if you want a crash course in the Spanish film industry immediately following the death of General Franco, I don't know why I said it that way, General Franco, this is a great way to get that. From there, they talk about more aspects like comparisons to Rosemary's Baby and the theatrical reach of the and the theatrical reach of this one versus other Simone films. Plenty to talk about, but suffice it to say, this commentary is yet another winner from the Ellinger-Deegan paradigm. Love them. Overall, Satan's Blood is a strong recommend. Go buy it. It's good stuff. And of course, oh my God, look at this. Look at it. Oh, look at this. Oh, and you got the S certificate down here. Look at that. Oh my God. That's just beautiful. That's beautiful work right there. I love this. And you have this really awful old school poster, which, I mean, it's not inaccurate, I guess. You can also see here is like the poster's all cut up. But if you look at the slipcover, look at that. Oh, beautiful artwork. Beautiful artwork. Honestly, I'd probably just keep it on that, but I figured I might as well go ahead and switch it around since, people are going to be seeing the slipcover anyway. But it's a really nice poster. Like, I would love a copy of that poster, honestly. Hang that shit right up. Praise Satan!
I haven't been up here since I left for college.
College student Richard Strand is studying fear.
Come on, don't Freud me out here, Dr. Arnold.
Morty was his childhood friend. But there's something off about Morty.
Work some magic into the wood. Scare the shit out of me, man. I don't know why.
The fear. It's what scares you the most.
You don't pull on Superman's cape. You don't fit into those.
The Fear. Puckballs. The Fear. What's there to say about this 1995 horror movie from Kindergarten Cop locations manager Vincent Robert, other than that it somehow has a sequel? That's right. Oh my God. Anyway, I don't know. Fuck it. I don't know. The Fear is a strange beast. It's about this college student who is studying, fear.
Goofy, huh?
And invites a bunch of friends and acquaintances over to the woodland house where he grew up. Here, we uncover all sorts of secrets, melodrama, and a human-sized wooden doll, definitely not played by a human in makeup. Wink, wink. Oh God, why is it blinking? Anyway, what's striking about The Fear is that it doesn't seem terribly interested in being a horror movie. Sure, that element is there, but it does that film school thing where it gets so up its own butt about its characters' relationships and internal drama and plot mechanics that it just starts to fall apart under its own weight. It's a messy narrative that just hands you a bunch of unlikable characters and says, have fun! Now that said, there is something innately watchable about The Fear. This is definitely not going to be on my worst Vinegar Syndrome list at any point, because despite its myriad of issues, including some really heinous acting, a criminal underuse of Wes Craven, laughable effects, and a rape subplot that just... yeah. Once you get past all of this, the heavy mix of melodrama, lackluster filmmaking, and strange choices give The Fear a unique tone that it almost borders on experimental. Given a less college student film vibe, we might have like an accidental David Lynch-esque prodigy on our hands, but not quite. Actually, definitely, like not by a long shot, honestly. I don't know why I even... it's not good. This is not a good movie, but at the same time, I do weirdly enjoy it, and I don't know what that says about me. And I also don't really know what to say about this movie. This is one that we're gonna have to go into more in depth in the future.
And you can check it out.
We will check it out.
Now, straight up, I did not deep dive into the extras on this one either, so I don't really have a lot of context for a lot of stuff. I started listening to the commentary with director Vincent Robert. I didn't really care for the vibes and turned it off. That's nothing directly against the commentary, just that I wasn't feeling it at the time, and I haven't revisited it. Although I definitely will at some point, since I am curious to know more about this strange little production. There's also a commentary by executive producer Greg H. Sims, as well as a 50-minute making-of documentary. So plenty of material to dive into. Pretty solid stack of special features for a movie most people are probably not going to find much in which to enjoy. As such, I'm giving this one a very light recommend. The movie is impossible to objectively promote to you guys, but the special features are of the small but mighty variety that really gets my goat. So yeah, don't necessarily not buy this one, but don't rush to nab it either. It is an optional release that I am interested to revisit. And as far as the slip is fine. It's a fairly fine slip. Yeah, I don't know what to say about it. It's fine. Like, whatever. Of course, you have this very, again, iconic artwork. I think the reason I got a sequel is you look at this in the video store and you want to see what the fuck is going on in there. And then of course you get the inside. So, interesting film. Interesting film. You saw the trailer thing. Just check it out. Check it out. Oh my god. Next up, Hitcher in the Dark.
I see you, girl.
I knew you were ready to stop.
Go ahead. Beg my forgiveness.
Ah, Phil Mirage, you gloriously incestuous peddler of Italian garbage. How I love thee, and hate thee in equal measure. Speaking of which, did Cruel Jaws steal the opening helicopter shots of the RV in this movie?
So I'm a son of a bitch, am I?
I love Film Mirage, but also it's awful, but also it's great. I don't know what to say about Film Mirage. Anyway, Hitcher in the Dark starts off running with a quick murder and an introduction to our killer, Mark, who picks up ladies in his RV, kills them, and dumps them in the Florida swamps for the gators to take care of them. Yep, don't go into this flick expecting a compelling mystery or even the slightest hint of subtlety. This is Umberto Lenzi we're talking about, and in the 1980s, that some gun didn't fuck with lame junk like intricate plotting or character depth, you fucking nerds. Nah, this is a movie about tits, death, and one psychopathic, moody yuppie fuck. Yeah, anywho, our yuppie shithead killer makes the mistake of kidnapping Daniela, the sister of Kevin here. Hi, Kevin. You okay, bud? Mark is a bit of a Johnny come too soon, and with that plus his mommy issues, we wind up with some pretty unpleasant moments that would make Sleazy Michael a bit uncomfortable. And it goes beyond just actions, even little things just feel kind of gross in this movie. Why did we ever think brownish yellow tinted cups were a good idea, especially for which to drink milk? Just, it's so gross. That being said, Hitcher in the Dark is odd, perhaps even offbeat. It seems as though it's going to be Maniac for Dummies, but winds up spending most of the runtime dealing with the relationship between Mark and Daniela, while Kevin is off trying to find her and talking all weird and junk.
I promise you, I'll get her out of this. It's just a matter of time.
He's not a good actor. There's really not much in the way of murder, so if you want a ton of death with your sleaze, you're better off popping in New York Ripper or the aforementioned Maniac. But one big hindrance is Mark, who just couldn't be less likable. And so whenever it seems like Daniela is succumbing to his killer charms, we wind up with pretty hazy motivations. Is she tricking him all the time, or is she actually building something special in her mind thanks to Stockholm Syndrome? I don't know. I don't subscribe to the latter, but it does seem like that might be one of the options the movie's giving us. But this all leads to a confounding and incredibly stupid finale that honestly kind of pulls everything together thanks to the sheer soap operatic lunacy the film decides to end on. It should be noted that that ending was forced upon the director, but it's one of those things where, you know, it's like the ending of Pieces. And if you've seen Pieces, you know what I'm talking about, where it's just like, you know, okay, we're all wrapped up. Wait, one more thing. And it just goes off the rails. So interesting film. The commentary with Sam Deegan and Kat Ellinger is an extremely enjoyable listen. It's mostly about defending the legacy of Umberto Lenzi, but we do also get some insight into the production and, of course, that special brand of critical outlook that will give anyone who doesn't enjoy Hitcher in the Dark a little more appreciation for the film. There's also an archival 10-minute interview with Lenzi who discusses a couple of topics, most notably how the producers forced him to shoot the aforementioned bizarre ending in lieu of his originally intended version, which, when he describes it, does sound more poetic, but it's not quite as, holy fuck, what? Which I think some people, you know, looking back, definitely enjoy about these Italian films. Hitcher in the Dark is not, it's another not quite mandatory release, but it does have an anthropomorphic duck clapping for wet titties, so let's call it a mixed bag. Obviously, Lenzi completists will need to pick this up, and I think if you go in with an open mind, then you'll probably get a memorable experience, unless you're just like really into the interior details of the Chieftain 88 Winnebago, in which case I give it the highest possible recommendation for you fucking perverts. Now, let's talk about this cover. There's the slip cover. It does not give across the right vibe. It almost looks like it's supposed to be... fuck, the microphone. Wait, can I just... Let's see, can we get it in the same plane as my face? There we go. Alright, so the Hitcher... It looks like it's supposed to be like Hitcher 3 or something, or Hitcher 2, I guess, at this point, but it's definitely not. Got some interesting cover art. Yeah, it looks good. It's a good bit of art. Although I do think it looks a little bit generic. It looks almost like something you'd buy at Walmart for like $5, but it's all right. It pops. That's good. It pops. Pop. Anyway, before we get into the third volume of the Forgotten Giallo collections, or Gialli, I need a break because that was just a lot of talking. So here is a word from our sponsor.
This video is sponsored by Michael Keene's Merch Palace. Check it out at the link in the description, where you can get all of your Michael Keene merch needs. Don't have a Cub Groans t-shirt yet in commemoration of Grizzly 2? Get your ass on it! Don't have an Orville Ketchum as himself t-shirt? What the fuck is wrong with you? Of course, you can't go wrong with the classic Philip the Vinegar Cat t-shirt. Grab that shit! This anonymous man loves his shirt. He also loves cats, and we can assure you no cats were harmed in the making of these shirts. Look at that cat. she's doing just fine. And while you're checking out, don't forget to throw a buzz.
Oh, hello there, you fucks. Oh, let's talk some porno. Roll the trailers.
Do you want a cigarette?
No, damn it. I want some head. A world devoted entirely to sex.
You don't know what you've been missing. Haven't you ever heard? The darker the meat, the sweeter the juice.
If you can imagine it, we can arrange it. We offer you anything and everything. Bondage, domination, water sports, whatever you desire. Incest, frottage.
You came out here to have a good time, and we intend to see that you do.
Ooh, you just know it's gonna be a saucy experience when your porno isn't just on 4K UHD, but even as a theme song. So why Sex World on 4K? What's the big fucking deal? Well, part of it is certainly the fucking. We've got some passionate, hardcore sex on display here. And shit, just look at the interior design. The great Anthony Spinelli directs this kinda, sorta futuristic tale of artificially fulfilled desires, through which he gives us marital drama, K. Parker-related incest fantasies, on brand, and cuckery, threesomes, lesbianism, phone sex, racial domination, and of course, good old-fashioned fucking. What really sets Sex World apart is how it portrays passionate fucking alongside drama, social satire, and humor, with a level of mainstream professionalism not often even seen in the golden age of pornography. Vinegar Syndrome's 4K UHD transfer just makes it so much more visceral. Rad, Deadly Games, Beastmaster, fuck that shit. Sex World. Ooh, and the editing. The way various fuck sings intermingle, the use of voiceover during sexual frenzy, and just the shots used during the moments of unbridled passion. It marries perfectly with the cinematography and shockingly strong acting performances on display. And the tits. With a roster consisting of Annette Haven, Sharon Thorpe, Desiree West, titties, Leslie Beauvais, and Kay Parker. Joined by Kent Hall, John Leslie, Joey Silvera, Johnny Keys, and the lesser-known but oddly endearing Jack Wright. What we have here is a non-stop thrill ride for all the sleazeaholics out there.
Perfect.
If you like pornography, you just have to take a trip to Sex World. For extras, we get interviews with Kay Parker, Joey Silvera, and still photographer Joel Sussman, ported over from the previous Vinegar Syndrome release of the film, of which this is like the fourth, I think, something like that. There's also a feature-length softcore version, but fuck that shit. The CD soundtrack, however, music to fuck to. Oh, just look at this slipcover. Ooh, and if we... this is really hard to do when you're naked. Jesus Christ. Oh, shit. Fuck. 3 discs, one of which is permanently lodged in my 4K UHD player. Ready for a go again and again. Ooh, also, look at this slipcover. Ooh, look at those sides. Ooh, yeah. Papa-like. Overall, this is one hell of a must-own for any Blu-ray pervert. However, if you don't care about the 4K UHD new restoration of the film, just keep your old Blu-ray. You can jerk off to that one just fine. Next up, let's journey to Francais with the double feature of Furies Sexualis and Prostitution Clandestine. 2 works by noted French hardcore director Alain Payet. Foreign. First up, Furies Sexualis begins with shopgirl Marie Madeleine waking up in a hospital room after attempting suicide. A challenge. Don't worry. Sleazy Michael's got this under control.
Blondes, brunettes, and redheads.
So you ever killed Betty? Didn't realize that there was anybody in Rome that could identify her.
Y donde hay muertos hay vivos.
No me creen, ¿verdad? Suponen que estoy loca. ¡Pistola! ¡Denme la pistola!
Shirt. Jesus. All right. Ugh. Holy fuck biscuits. Look at this. Forgotten Gialli. Volume 3. I haven't actually gotten to 3 in Duolingo. I haven't gotten my numbers yet, so I actually don't know. Anyway, Volume 3 is here at last. I'm so fucking happy about this release. Oh my god. And I'm not going to dig too deep into any of these films. We're going to be pretty quick about this because it is 3 films in one release. And I don't want this particular edition of the stack to go too long, which now I'm thinking about it. I probably shouldn't be talking about this. I should just be doing, because then I would be saving time. I'm so bad at this. But anyway, you want some seriously sleazy Italian giallo? Well, yeah, I should have done this first as well. Yeah. Welcome to Autopsy Town, baby! Sunspots are a major part of Autopsy, which makes sense considering the Italian title literally translates to, well, sunspots. It draws on an old myth of solar flares causing depression and suicide, something that you'll also find to a lesser degree in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Remember the opening credits to that film? Sunspots, baby! Repressed sexuality in the form of our lead, Simona, a pathologist who is actively researching exactly how sunspots cause suicide, is another aspect of this film. Repressed repressed sexuality, you know what I'm saying? Cut that. Anyway, so she's a pathologist who is actively researching exactly how sunspots cause suicide. It's a dumb notion, but Autopsy sells it pretty nicely. Anyway, Simona is one of those delightful giallo protagonists who is both okay, well, the second part's going great. She's one of those protagonists who is both self-sufficient and smart while also being more than a little unreliable in her point of view. Girl sees corpses fucking, which, while fucking rad and indicative, gosh, that killed me, of her sexual repression, might also be indicative of a few loose screws in the attic. Does that work? Fuck it. She's also got daddy issues, so you know, anything can happen. Eventually, Autopsy gets downright ridiculous with its science fiction element, which feels at odds with the more traditional giallo surrounding it. Not in a bad way, mind you, just at odds. It livens up the formula by conflicting with it, which I admire quite a bit. There's also really strange, borderline experimental editing at times. There's a moment where a character describes the floods of Florence, and we get stock footage of raging swells to go along with it. It's a wild film, but one that I highly, highly recommend. It is so much fun, and I would say it's my favorite of this bunch. It's just a really rollicking good time. It's utterly bizarre, has a lot of fun characters, a fantastic twist, a nice, as you like that abrupt giallo ending that you would expect and crave. Fantastic. So anyway, for extras, we get a 4-minute archival introduction with the director from an Italian film screening, an 11-minute interview by the director's son with editor Daniele Alabiso, who gives a lot of insight into his process and creating rhythm. Then there's a 9-minute interview with the aforementioned son of Armando Crispino, Francesco, who gives us access to previous versions of the script and access to other documents from his father. This is rounded out by a 38-minute featurette on Crispino's career, as explained by his son. There's light editing on this, but mostly it's just Francesco. I don't know how Italian names work, but it's him talking more, which is fine. He's very knowledgeable and obviously very close to the subject matter. Oh, and we get a trailer and alternate Italian titles and credits for all you perverts out there. Next up, Murder Mansion. Where is it? Where the fuck is it? Murder Mansion. Strangers trapped in a house in the middle of nowhere across from a cemetery and filled to the brim with deadly secrets and deadlier consequences. Murder Mansion is a bit of an oddity in this set, in so much as it's far less of it's far less giallo-esque than the others. That's not to say it isn't a giallo, it definitely is, but those more acquainted with the standard bearers might not think as much of this little gothic mystery I got there. It's not an Argento flick. It does feel somewhat Bava-esque, light use of that, but it feels more like a any one of those gothic Bava house movies. I don't know why I can't think of the name. The one with Blofeld, Who Loves You Baby? That guy. Feels more in line with that kind of film, but with a more giallo twist to it. But I won't spoil any of that. It does also include the Spanish language soundtrack of the film, so you get Italian, Spanish, and English, so pick your poison on that one. Beyond that, all we get is an interview with actress Ida Gialli, whatever, Evelyn Stewart is what she goes by, and that's about it. That's the long and short of it. But this is a fun one. This is a nice little mystery, lots of atmosphere, tons to just like soak in and enjoy. There's a great kind of like drunk pervert character who I love, so much fun to watch. And our leads are nice too, but it all ends in a nice, gory, violent way that I think a lot of people will enjoy. The last one in this set is Crazy Desires of a Murderer. So this is probably the least memorable of this Forgotten Gialli set, although still a more than worthy entry into this series. This is a sleazy little whodunit centered around the usual plot of a bunch of greedy fucks in an isolated location contending with a murder that spawns even more murder. On the site, Vinegar Syndrome themselves refer to it as, quote, a delicious mix of gothic horror, sex, drama, murder mystery, plus a whole lot of extracted eyeballs. And yeah, that's what you get. Look, what I'm getting at here is I don't remember much in the way of the movie's plot after my one watch through, but I do remember lots of sex, death, and sleaze. 3 things that, in lieu of more striking details, I think we can agree are hallmarks of the genre and should leave buyers content with their purchase. Also, it leaves me with the reminder that I should really take notes while I watch these things. Corrado Gaipa? Is that how you say his name? Whatever. The dude from The Godfather plays a detective. So there's that. Anyway, our lone extra is a 15-minute interview with actor Giuseppe Colombo, who is extremely Italian, so opinionated, and animated. Not necessarily the most informative interview, but very entertaining. And that's it. It's not the most wildly expansive, full of special features set in the world, but it's 3 Gialli that I had not seen. All of them entertaining, some more memorable than others. Autopsy is definitely the best. Oh, I forgot to show you, by the way, of course, you got the alternate artwork, as well as the old school. Looks great. I just love the artwork in general in these. And Autopsy, oh my god, I really cannot extol the virtues of Autopsy enough. It's so fun. Murder Mansion, of course. Got that nice cover there. And then we got this sucker. Honestly, either one would work for me. I went with the more hokey looking one, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. They're all going to be in a fucking box the entire time, but there we go. Crazy Desires of a Murderer, and oh god, Crazy Desires of a Murderer, which just in general, just great artwork options here, if that matters to you. So that is Forgotten Gialli, Volume 3. Very quick overview of that, but I quite enjoyed this set. Unfortunately, our next film is a massive step down from the glory of the Forgotten Giallo series. And I don't have it. One second. Ugh, Last Gasp.
Can't get too near a dying Toltec. Something to do with their spirits. Toltec are supposed to live forever. They believe a man's soul escapes to another body in his dying breath. What's the matter, Senor Chase? Never kill no one?
Toltec, they don't like you run.
He lost his job. I was paying all the bills. I guess he resented it. He messed his head up, so he left to sort things out.
If you're looking to find somebody, I'm your man.
Come on.
Do you know a man named Leslie Chase? He's the one who's putting all those bodies out there in the fields.
Developer. Lives over on Ravenwood, about 3540. Standing right behind you.
Do it. His spirit is passed on in that breath. That last gasp.
Okay, that trailer you just saw that I put together, yeah, that's me doing the best with what I've got, which is somehow one of the worst films I've ever watched, courtesy of Vinegar Syndrome. And that's pretty shocking, considering it stars the one and only Robert Patrick, known, I mean, most famously, of course, as a redneck werewolf in True Blood, and not much else. Anyway, he plays a crooked land developer possessed by a dying native who gives Patrick the ability to put on face paint and act a damn fool while murdering innocent people. And then plot happens. Basically, this land developer scumbag, he decides it's cool to gun down a bunch of natives down in Mexico, and when he returns to the US, he's been possessed by one of them, and then there's this investigation into a missing persons case. We follow this douchebag, then we follow this lady and this other horny one, and Robert Patrick becomes a supporting player, and alright, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I lost the plot on this one really early, and while I was able to come back around by the third act, my interest peaked pretty early on, fell away, and never really recovered. Like, I didn't even write a full script for this. I don't... Like, it's on the back here, it's Last Gasp, and then pray you never hear it. Pray you never watch this fucking movie. This thing sucks. Like, legitimately, one of the... Like, I was watching this with patrons, which, by the way, join the Patreon down below. I was watching this with my patrons, and we were just... like, none of us could, like, follow along with the plot. It was so just tiring to watch. It felt like nothing was happening. There's this great premise of Robert Patrick in full Native American regalia, or not Native American, but Native Mexican tribesman, you know what I mean, dressed up like a native person who is not white, and killing people. Like, there is something there that is intrinsically interesting. Like, I was super excited to watch this because it seemed like just, hey, let's have Robert Patrick just go ape and just have fun. And that's not what it is at all. It's mostly this sort of attempt at noirish investigation, awful acting, and really just like very little effects, very little action. Yeah, I don't really have any positives. This is definitely one of the worst of the bunch. It's not quite as bad as, say, Dr. Jekyll's Dungeon of Death, but it's a doozy, man.
The neighborhood kids think I'm a bit spinsterly as it is. Did I say spinsterly? Hell, they think I'm a witch.
It's a Last Gasp. There's luckily, outside of, quote, extensive outtakes and the trailer, there's no other special features. So this one was easy to dump. That's it. We'll move on.
What is that? That, my dear, is the BDB house.
Wake up! This is real life, not some stupid horror movie.
Anyway, I'm the only one who seems to think there's something weird going on.
At least I do it for money, not whack-off material.
Live long and prosper.
Now then, Rush Week. The 1989 slice of slasher fuckery that is Rush Week, starring Pamela Ludwig, whom you might remember from the excellent Vinegar Syndrome release Pale Blood. This frat-based slasher film is absolutely bonkers. We've got a bunch of main characters who are just a bunch of fucking assholes, and it is wild. Let me actually, I didn't have a plot written down for this because I was a little high. I'm gonna be honest. Like, some of these I was super toasted on. Toni Daniels is an ambitious young journalist working for her college newspaper. Tired of covering the same boring stories as her peers, Toni becomes intrigued by the recent disappearances of several female students and believes that they may be linked to an on-campus murder that happened the previous year during the college's raucous Rush Week. Despite being certain that something terrible has been happening on campus, no one she talks to is willing to admit that the disappearances are a cause for concern. Undeterred, Tori decides to investigate the mystery on her own, but before long finds herself becoming embroiled in a twist-filled saga of deeply buried and bloody secrets which attract the attention of a sadistic killer who will stop at nothing to hide the truth. Yeah. That doesn't really make it sound all that fun, does it? But trust me, this is a fun film. This is wild. This is like a whole bunch of bananas. It is bonkers. Not as bonkers as the last one on our list, but it's something else. The motivations are interesting. It's one of those where I thought, okay, well, that person definitely can't be the killer because that's way too obvious, and then that person was the killer, and the ending does leave you with a bit of a that's it. But before that, it's wild. Like, there's so much going on. They're constantly setting up this mystery again and again. There's investigations, there's red herrings, there's some nice tense moments with our investigator lady. Yeah, and, you know, it's not as violent as it could be, but there's some wild bullshit that occurs. And I think it's one of my favorites from this bunch. It's a lot of fun to watch while inebriated. It's the feature filmmaking debut of Bob Bralver, who was a stuntman, did Darkman, among other things. And, yeah. On a technical note, if you like crew shadows in your low-budget horror, ooh, buddy, This one's a treat. Hello, Boom Mike. Hello, camera. Hello, Dolly.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal.
As noted in the commentary, there's very little in the way of blood in Rush Week, although I barely noticed as much during my initial watch.
We've paid our debt to society.
There's a fairly good chance that this was in order to sell the film to distributors, but it could also be that director Bob Bralver was simply that confident in the strength of Rush Week's humor and characters. Either which way, don't go in expecting buckets of red stuff. This is more interested in the comedic side of things than the horror. However, if you're more of a TNA fan, the film does have your back in a big way. By which I mean, big old titties, as far as the eye can see, basically deserve their own on-screen credit. In that regard, you'll be well served.
Okay, that's enough.
Now, I mentioned the humor, and what really surprised me most about Rush Week was the fine balance between horror and comedy that was prevalent in this time period, but often leaned too far in any given direction. Rush Week plays the gags with a light touch, and while I would definitely agree that it lends itself more toward the comedy, I think the ratio works for the story, especially since we're dealing with Rush Week at a college filled with colorful characters. For extras, we get a commentary by The Hysteria Continues, as well as interviews with actors Dean Hamilton and Courtney Gebhardt. The commentary is fine. It's fine. Maybe I'm a bit spoiled by previous commentaries from these guys, but this one feels a little hit and miss, with plenty of stretches of silence sprinkled throughout and very little in the way of behind-the-scenes knowledge. Admittedly, this is probably a tough film to compile notes on, but I think a little more prep would have benefited this particular commentary. The Gebhardt interview is 12 minutes, and she's very high energy and excited to talk about Rush Week. She talks about lip-syncing her big performance at the frat house, having fun on set, and working with a bunch of talented, apparently pretty cool people. The Dean Hamilton interview is also basically 12 minutes, and he's a little less hyped to be talking about Rush Week, but nonetheless gives us some fun behind-the-scenes stories. Overall, solid film. I would actually highly recommend this one. I think that not everyone will enjoy it, but that's kind of the Vinegar Syndrome way. It's a solid film. Also, this cover is very nice. It's very fun, very punchy. You can see, I never actually plopped this one. Let's see, boop-a-doop. A little bit more direct-to-video look on the other side there, but I'll take it, man. I just really like this. This is, it's nice, it's fun, it's hip, it's now. Having a good time.
First they turn off the heat, then they turn off the gas, then they turn off the lights, then they turn us onto some rats, and now they're turning garbage trucks over on us. So dig it, everybody's getting a bit turned off, you know?
Yeah, I hear you. Maybe I better keep my eyes open around here a couple of days, huh?
You think you wave a handful of money and everybody's gonna jump. Well, those buildings ain't just made of bricks, you know. People live in those buildings.
Bet you won't put your trust in me. Bet you won't let me go further than you can see. Bet you think I'm playing something and won't say. If you think I'm thinking of a slicker way. That's a promise. I'm gonna get ya. That's a promise. I'm gonna blow your mind. That's a promise. I'm gonna get ya.
What's that? What have you fought with the police?
What police? They own the police.
Jesus Christ!
I'm gonna get ya.
You mean somebody took that small army down there and dismantled it, pulled it apart? Is that what you're telling me?
That's a promise.
Finally, we got to talk about Death Promise. Pick out my Death Promise. Every so often, you get a film that really just defines Vinegar Syndrome for you. And over the last few months, the best film we've gotten has got to be Death Promise. Now, we've talked about a lot of cult flicks in this video. Some of them with solid following, some borderline unknown to the point of not even really attaining cult status. But Death Promise, ooh boy. Motherfucking Death Promise. This is the kind of film that starts with our heroes jogging through New York City in matching yellow tracksuits while the film's theme song plays. Theme song, like made... Oh my god. I got too excited and I had to burp. like theme song made for the film. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's pretty fucking lit. The plot is wild. Basically, our boys live in shitty apartments run by greedy slumlord fucks who only care about money. That's right, money. After they repeatedly fail to run their tenants out of their homes, these capitalist murder pigs go too far and kill Charlie Here's father. Our martial artist protagonist decides to take matters into his own hands by leaving behind everyone and training with a martial arts master. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but making sense isn't the attraction here. This is one of those movies that has a very simple driving force. In this case, a pretty strong hatred of landlords and a drive to make a fun, wild, action-packed exploitation classic. It's not particularly well made. The acting ranges from tolerable to terrible, and the story is equal parts ludicrous and nonsensical. And brother, I wouldn't have it any other way. This is the raw force of 2021, baby.
Gentlemen, our problems are over.
The martial arts sequences are not exactly Bruce Lee level, but they do feature some skilled fighters, good enough choreography, and some truly wild moments. The big brawl in the boardroom near the end is, let me actually just bring that right back. And between the frequent action and hilariously inept choices made throughout, this almost feels like a way more entertaining Al Adamson flick. It's so Death Promise. If you like films like Dangerous Men or Raw Force or Miami Connection, this one's for you. The one bummer for this release is that the extras are pretty non-existent outside of a 16-minute interview with editor Jim Markovic and the theatrical trailer plus a stills gallery. The interview is pretty darn good, giving more context to the film production that helps the viewer better understand the limitations the filmmakers had to contend with. But that being said, I would have liked to have seen a commentary, especially this is, it's so good. It's so good. Like, look at this artwork. Oh my lord. There's a ninja sequence where our character basically has to assassinate a character, and he has to get by 2 guards, and it is one of my favorite scenes of all time now. Like, there is so much to love about this film. It is not particularly well made in the traditional sense. There's a mysterious killer, or like benefactor, or like there's a mysterious dude. And he is working with the main bad guys, and he's being kept in shadow. But they didn't really shoot it properly, and you can see the guy plain as day. You can tell who it is, and so the big twist at the end is completely spoiled for you. Almost. It actually wasn't entirely spoiled for me because it was so obvious that I felt like I was being like a little racist in the moment, and then it turns out I wasn't. It was literally just the same guy. So I love Death Promise. It is outrageous. It's fun. It's silly. It has a social message that is somewhat muddled, but still very clear. It's very clear where the filmmakers stand on issues. It has that 70s New York City grit feel to it. It's very low budget, but also has a lot of aspirations. You can tell that the filmmakers wanted to make this big action movie, and they just don't have access to the resources necessary, but that's okay because they have a whole bunch of like really poor actors doing their best, putting in over-the-top performances. A guy gets a bag of rats on his head. That's fantastic. Our main dude is a legit, really solid martial artist who likes to show off his skills. At one point, the baddies try to burn down the apartment building, but they're like setting fire to like a brick wall in the alleyway. It's so equal parts silly, dumb, and fun, and it's so earnest. I cannot recommend Death Promise enough. Death Promise is so great. So, as far as how I would rank these, let's just do this real quick, and then that's going to be it for us, guys. So, Last Gasp is the worst. Fuck that movie. And then Dark Tower is just not particularly interesting, so that goes underneath that. Let's see here. The Fear, it kind of works, and it kind of doesn't. It's just too muddled. It's way too muddled. But this is a stacked release. I'll give them that. And then, oh my God. Oh, this is where it gets tough, fellas. Oh, fellas. Like, these are all just really solid options. Like, beyond those three, I think I recommend everything. But I will say that Cthulhu Mansion is very flawed, and will probably be a little disappointing to a lot of people, considering the title. I'll put that next. And then I'd say Rush. Oof, no, actually. Hitcher in the Dark. Hitcher in the Dark, I really enjoyed. I think Hitcher in the Dark is really solid, but it's not as good as Rush Week, which doesn't always work, and it does have an ending that's a little anticlimactic, but it also has a lot of the what the fuck trademarks that I look for in films, so take it. And then, let's see, oh man, you know what, I'm going to say Satan's Blood, just because it's a singular, really solid film, very atmospheric, very up my alley. The Forgotten Gialli set, I mean, if it was just Autopsy, I think Autopsy would be in this position, but all three films are really solid, enjoyable Gialli, and I will be revisiting all of them at some point, so can't go wrong with that. And then, of course, Death Promise is the fucking bomb.com. I love it so much. Of course, we also have Sex World, which Sleazy Michael talked about. Sex World, really solid. If I was to put it in this ranking, I would say, oh boy, I'd put it right above Rush Week, I think. Sex World is really solid. And the release itself is amazing. Like, just an amazing release. So, cannot go wrong with Sex World if you're into the porno side of things. You need to own at least one copy. I think if you have the previous Blu-ray, you should be okay. But at the same time, this is a beautiful 4K transfer. Like, it looks great. So, however you feel about the matter, Sex World's really solid. And then, of course, we had the other two, the foreign porno films. I don't really know where I'd put them yet, because I don't know. It's tough. They are really good films, but I need to talk about them more in depth at some point. So we'll get to those in the future. Same with the VSAs. I'll be taking on all of those individually. Yeah, I really have enjoyed this year with Vinegar Syndrome. Again, only really 2 duds out of the whole bunch for me so far, assuming the VSAs are fine. I haven't watched all the VSAs yet, so obviously that's to be seen. But yeah, that was some good shit. Go watch a movie.
That's a promise. Bet you won't put your trust in me. Bet you won't let me go further than you can see. Bet you think I plan something and won't say. If you think I'm thinking of a slicker way.